Hello, beautiful brothers and sisters. So, I believe this is now technically Guardian Talks 4. So, today I thought, I've been thinking about what I would like to speak about. And there's so many things going on at the moment, isn't there? Really. Hmm. I mean, there are things going on the metaphysical, the physical. I mean, I believe what I've chosen to talk about today is events going on in the UK, which is, of course, just a different form of what is going on around the world altogether. Different forms, same functions, ultimately the same things that are going on, manifesting itself in different forms. But obviously, the form of the UK is taking at the moment. And when I speak to this, of course, I am speaking to the old timeline. What do I mean by the old timeline? I mean that the movie, The Matrix, the narrative, if you were completely oblivious to metaphysics, if you were not critical thinking, and you were sort of moving through life without particular direction or depth of understanding of what's going on around you, things that are happening, in elections, Trump, RFK, Putin, Ukraine, Zelensky, Starmer in the UK, wherever. Each of these different people and places will be seen in different ways by different people. Some people love Trump, some people hate Trump. I would suggest that they are all characters. They are all not so much characters. Yes, characters, but they have a role. As everyone has a role. If you have a soul, you have a role. Let's put it that way. If you have a soul, you have a role. So, if Trump has a soul, the Trump that we see on the television, then he has a role. Same with RFK, same with Putin, Zelensky, all of the big names, all of the big wigs. And part of that role is to make the movie. And one of the things about movies, certainly when I was younger, was that movies are exciting. They have ups, they have downs, and then they have a conclusion. And a lot of people are geared and programmed like that because of the way things have been. So no doubt the universe has created pathways. Pathways for them to, for people to fulfill that sense of narrative in a way that is appropriate to them in a movie-like fashion, which will eventually bring them to the state where they don't need any of that. They see that for what it is. But if it gets them there, it gets them there. And so that narrative which included personalities, nation versus nation, history, official history, so on and so forth, is winding down. It's still going on, but it's collapsing, if you will. Various different versions of those timelines are collapsing, and people are in ever greater numbers being pushed to the precipice where they are forced to release, take account, acknowledge, forgive and release, and then move forward. to release those chakra vibrations, to begin to move into and towards higher vibrations, and maintain that. And in the case of the UK, the old timeline as it is playing out right now is, in essence, a communist coup, utilizing third stage jihad as a vehicle for multiple things: disruption, distraction, chaos, as a proxy militant force, because Keir Starmer does not care whose feet stand upon the ground of the British Isles, just so long as they have had enough time and excuse to install a grid control system. So then it doesn't matter who's on there afterwards, because at the end of the day, he's WEF puppet. He's a puppet of the WEF, and his pay. Those are his paymasters, and so he's just managing that sector of land that just happens to be called the United Kingdom. And the pressure is on now; it's building. Anybody who goes, looks hard enough, or looks on X, will see ludicrously harsh sentences being given to people who were present at the riots, who were taking part in the riots. Those who were just watching, they were protests, they weren't riots. So those who were taking part in the protests, those who were watching the protests from the side, not taking part, those who retweeted video of the protests, those who made comments and posted comments about the protests in any way that was supportive or talking towards the root causes and sentiments as to why those protests flared up in the first place, to prison. Shouting aggressively at police, shouting at a police dog, 2.5 years. And at the same time, there are genuine criminals who aren't even legally here, being released from prison. Legally in the UK, are being released from prison early to make room for these other criminal types. Now, I am a global peace advocate, and GPMS World is the vehicle for the ultimate solution. And I know we're all going to GPMS. We're all moving into that world now. Now the question remains, do we move into that world? To what degree of chaos, conflict, friction is going to be incurred between now and the inception of GPMS? Obviously, I, with great sincerity, wish it to be the least amount of pain, suffering, blood, conflict, as peacefully as possible, done by word, not by sword. And it's possible, and that's always possible at any moment, any time. That can happen. But it is looking still like increasingly as though there needs to be still more conflict, still more pain, still more suffering before people are pushed to the level where they will act in a significant, meaningful manner and feel worthy enough in themselves to stand in their own authority and say, no, enough is enough. There is a better way. There are solutions to these issues we face, the challenges we face. And that is required to be done pretty soon. There isn't much time left. Because if that isn't done, then a green light, green flag signal is going to go up, not just in the UK, pretty much across Europe. And there's going to be a dark period of pain, suffering, blood on the streets, before it is resolved and brought back into some form of calm and order. So unless the wise and the knowledgeable start acting now and encouraging others to act, and the first step of that acting is to register your vote and consent with GPMS World, so that we're all clear cut that we're singing off the same hymn sheet. Benefit for all at the sufferance of none. So how is GPMS going to solve the problem of the UK? I hear some people may say, well, it's near enough in the same way it solves pretty much every other problem, every other situation we're faced with. The only reason those few at the top, in this case in the UK, Starmer and his cronies and henchmen, are able to utilize henchmen and the proxy militant force of the illegal immigrants coming in, Muslims, is because of two main things. Perception of scarcity, perception of lack, manufactured, and two, the withholding of key, crucial, vital information required to gain a deeper and truer understanding of the reality we face and we exist in. So, confusion, distortion, a lot of mud in the water. Combine that with the giving the sense of survival, the need to, the manufactured need to fight tooth and nail for every slice of pie that you can possibly get your hands on, is what's allowed, are the main driving mechanisms that's allowed so many beings to be, in essence, manipulated and herded and used. In this instance, in order to destabilize, and will eventually, if left unchecked, be used to eradicate the native population of the European peoples. Because you see, the people that are coming into the UK, they're coming from places who they're very familiar with strongmen leaderships. What I mean by strongmen is not necessarily strength of character, but just the idea that there is a guy at the top giving out the orders. He has a bunch of guys around him who make sure those orders get done, one way or the other. So once European people who do not agree with that kind of rulership are out of the way, cleared out of the way, the only people who are going to be left are going to be Muslims from those and non-Europeans from those countries who will just slide right in comfortably with being dictated over by Starmer and his lot. Although at that point, Starmer, I suppose, will just disappear to some. In his head, he'll disappear to some place where he can be with his folk and leave the Isles to one of the new people who have come in to take over as regional manager of the UK sector, if left unchecked. So when GPMS incepts, all of the driving factors behind what is allowing these masses to be moved in such a way are no longer present. They can go back to their countries if they want to. They can go to wherever they want in the world, technically, but when they know they can have all of the things that they came to Europe to have in the first place, material, comfort, abundance, then there's no need to, you don't need to fight to have that in a foreign land, in a land that's foreign to you, when you can have that to a land that's native to you. That drive has gone now. And in terms of information, once everything is open, fully transparent, and available to all, every information and all the details about everything, then many of the beliefs and understandings that undergird and are the foundations of many of the reasonings and drives behind what they think they're doing, or what they think they're going to achieve, what they think they're going to get. All of that will disappear because they will understand exactly what it is they're being used for and as. And they won't want to be used for and as anything. Then when they see what they're being used for and as actually, and that they don't now need to do what they've been doing, because they can go back and have that where they come from, because everybody's going to have access to it, all of the equal access to all of the resources available. That's the common heritage of mankind. No one's going to get more or less, or have access to more or less. The only thing that will dictate volumes of resources will be the sizes of the requirement for the particular order. If a large enough group of people have decided in the area they exist in, and so therefore it affects them, that they want to build a bridge over something, a river, a canyon, whatever, and they've voted for it on their local decentralized network, all the ones that were eligible to vote because they were in the affected catchment area of those who would be affected by the project. They all cleared it. Yep, it's all been cleared. It's a project manager. There's a design that's been run through the system. They're all ready to start getting it built. Then the resource order will go in, and then the appropriate amount of resources will be allocated to that. For an individual, it would be for any normal day: toiletries, food, water, transport, and then after that, whatever the individual applies for will be serviced to them at some point, depending on demand and availability and also speciality. You know, if it's a specialized product, it's a specialized like piece of equipment or something like that. Anyway, I'm going into the weeds. The point is we can now exist in a world like that. GPMS fully recognizes we have the tools, the technology. Once we decide unilaterally to take the actions and to just start doing it and backing each other up as we do. Automation is now already reached the point. It's already been, and digitization and automation is you know, a big, I imagine, a significant reason for what is going on in the UK currently. It's also down to depopulation is also a factor in that, I imagine, because there just aren't, there just isn't the work available, full-time work required. This just the requirement for unskilled labor is dropping all the time because of automation and digitization. So, and that's only going to increase. So the more people, the more different disparate groups attack and kill each other off on the streets, then the better for them, the people running the show. So that will be, and it won't be the sole reason, but that'll be what they'll consider to be a bonus element to it. Yeah. So that is, of course, if left unchecked. Which it isn't. There's already resistance rising, I hear it, especially in the Irish groups. In the Irish groups I listen to, they're really getting it fast, and you know, they have a unique history that has given them that particular edge, the kind of edge that UK doesn't really have. Hasn't been required of the British people really for however long. So softer on the uptake as to the realization of exactly the significance of what's going on, the gravity of the situation. But it is happening. The awakening is happening fast, not just the British Isles, across the world. And of course with groups like CABI, Community Assemblies of the British Isles, who are in alignment with GPMS and the values, core principles, and we have in fact adopted the divine law, as is so eloquently and succinctly written by the CABI team. So you know, things are coming together. I suspect soon, and I am encouraging guardians of GPMS, guardians of CABI, guardians of whatever you're a guardian of, really, will start realizing the strength and potential of physically being close together, you know, commune style. But don't be a commune, obviously, not talking like hippie communes here, but we're talking, yeah, communes, moving close together, complexes, little mini homemade villages, whatever. Because when you're together, you share resources, you share skills, you share expertise, you share experience, you share the workloads, you share all the burdens are halved and all of the benefits are doubled. Now's the time. really, to start doing that. Start thinking about doing that, certainly. The more autonomous we can be as individuals and groups in the acting and being in the way and state of being, and acting within the principles of GPMS and the new world, will hasten the collapse and destruction of the old timeline, the old world, and hasten the emergence of the new world and the heaven on earth. That's just how it is. I hope my brothers and sisters in the UK really step into their power and their authority now, whilst they can do so relatively conflict free. We shall see. We shall see. Keep an eye on the situation, see where it goes. So, yes. One thing I would like to ask for viewers and people who begin to be regular viewers of these broadcasts and the content I start to produce, please feel free to recommend content, recommend topics to talk about you'd like to hear my perspective on. I'd like to hear an attempt at taking what is something in an older viewpoint and perspective and try and bring it to a higher perspective. If you have something you would like to discuss in depth, then let's arrange a Zoom and let's do it. If you're comfortable doing it in a broadcast podcast form, and assist me to create content. But by all means, suggest different forms of content and topics to discuss, and in ways you would like them to be discussed. Yeah. So, thank you for watching. If you watched up till now, love, light, much gratitude, and watch this space.